What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Gaming Rewind. Now I know what you're thinking. Hold on, isn't this channel all about games? And usually you'd be right, but today we're doing something a little different. Consider this like a bonus round, a special level outside the main campaign. We're taking our signature deep dive approach and applying it to a movie that's been messing with my head. Smile 2. If you haven't seen the first, Smile, you might want to catch up, because this sequel dives right back into the creepy world of that supernatural entity that loves turning smiles into nightmares. And of course, spoiler alert, we're going to be dissecting some key moments, digging into themes, maybe even uncovering some hidden meanings. So if you haven't seen Smile 2 yet, maybe pause, check it out, and then come back to join the discussion. All right, ready to dive in. Smile 2 picks up just days after the first film, with Joel, Rose's ex-boyfriend, wrestling with the curse he inherited. He's desperate to break free, and his plan, well, he tries to pass the buck, figuring if he passes the entity to someone truly evil, maybe it'll neutralize the curse. But as you might expect, this doesn't exactly go as planned.
Joel's plan backfires spectacularly, ending with him getting hit by a truck. Brutal, right? But here's the thing. The curse doesn't die with him. It latches onto a nearby drug dealer named Lewis, who's just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Talk about bad luck. And that's where our new protagonist, Sky Riley, enters the picture. She's this massive pop star. Tried to stage a comeback after a really rough year. A car accident killed her boyfriend, and she's dealing with the trauma, substance abuse, and the pressure of fame all at once. So she's already vulnerable when she crosses paths with Lewis. Remember, is now carrying the curse. She goes to him looking for painkillers for a back injury from the accident and ends up witnessing his horrific suicide while the entity has him in its grip. It's a scene that just grabs you and doesn't let go. From that moment on, Sky's world starts to spiral. She's bombarded with terrifying visions and hallucinations. Those creepy, unnerving smiles are everywhere, like the entity is worming its way into her mind, exploiting her guilt and fear. What really struck me is how the film uses those smiles. They aren't just about jump scares.
They represent this twisted fake happiness. A mask, hiding all the turmoil Sky's going through. It's a brilliant reflection of her life as a pop star, where she has to project this perfect image. Even while falling apart internally, there are these scenes where she's clearly cracking under pressure of having public meltdowns, but her team is more focused on keeping the tour going than on her well-being. It makes you think about the dark side of fame, the pressure to maintain this facade, even when it feels like everything's crumbling around you. And then we're introduced to this intriguing character named Morris. He claims to have lost his brother to the curse and has been researching ways to break it. He believes temporarily stopping the host's heart could sever the connection to the entity. There's a long shot, a desperate gamble. I'm left wondering, is Morris for real? Or just another figment of Sky's increasingly fractured reality? That's one of the things I love about Smile, too. It plays with your perception of what's real and what's not, just like the first film did. There are these moments where you think you're seeing something concrete, only for it to be revealed as a hallucination.
It makes you question everything, even doubt the film itself. Like, is Sky's mom really dead? Is her best friend Gemma, being so supportive, actually real? Or are they just elaborate illusions conjured by the entity? The film keeps you on the edge of your seat, constantly guessing, which makes the horror that much more effective. And the way the film uses mirrors, it's masterful. They're everywhere. Reflecting Sky's increasingly distorted reality, you catch glimpses of unsettling details in the reflections, things Sky doesn't even see. It's like the film is giving you, the viewer, a peek behind the curtain, showing you the true horror unfolding just out of reach as the main character. Speaking of horror, the film's ending is a real punch to the gut. I don't want to spoil it completely for those who haven't seen it, but let's just say Smile 2 leaves you with a lot more questions than answers, especially about the implications for the entire Smile universe. But before we get to all that, there's some key moments and symbols that really jumped out at me, like the cars. They appear throughout the film, constantly linked to trauma and this terrifying loss of control.
It's like a visual metaphor for Sky's whole situation. Remember the flashback to Sky's car accident? We learned that she wasn't just a passenger. She was the one who grabbed the wheel during a fight with her boyfriend, which led to the crash. It adds this whole other layer of guilt to her already fragile state. The film doesn't shy away from showing how our actions, even in moments of intense emotion, can have devastating consequences. And the music, the soundtrack is phenomenal. But the way music is used within the film is brilliant. It reflects Sky's declining mental state. There's this scene where she's practicing choreography, and the music starts to distort, echoing the fear and chaos building up inside her. It's such a powerful way to show how she's losing her grip on reality, how the entity is slowly taking control. And then there's the constant water drinking. It's almost like Sky is desperately trying to cleanse herself, wash away the guilt and terror consuming her. It turns this everyday act into something symbolic, a desperate attempt to find some kind of purification.
All right, we're back, and it's time to unpack that ending, because let me tell you, Smile 2 doesn't hold back when it comes to shocking twists and unsettling implications. Remember that desperate escape Skye makes from the wellness center? She even calls Gemma for help. We see them driving to meet Morris, right? And they'll get ready for the rug to be pulled out from under you. That entire escape sequence. The frantic car ride with Gemma. Even the scene where Skye seemingly kills her own mother at the facility. It was all an illusion. A meticulously crafted fabrication by the entity. The film reveals this when Skye is at that abandoned Pizza Hut with Morris. About to undergo his risky heart-stopping procedure, she sees herself hanging from the ceiling, reliving the trauma of the car accident. And that's when everything starts to unravel. The lights go out. There's this unsettling, otherworldly sound. And when they come back on, Skye finds herself on stage at Madison Square Garden, in front of thousands of screaming fans, ready for her comeback concert. Her mom's in the audience, beaming with pride.
Darius, her manager, is all smiles, giving her the thumbs up. It's the moment she's been working towards. But there's this suffocating sense of dread hanging in the air. Skye's face is pale, a mix of confusion and terror. And that's when the entity reveals its true form. It bursts out of Skye, this grotesque, towering figure with multiple faces, contorted into those horrifying grins. The same ones that have been haunting her throughout the film. Remember how we talked about those smiles representing a twisted facade, a hidden darkness? Well, this scene takes that concept to a whole other level. It shows us the true face of the entity, the sheer, monstrous power that's been manipulating Skye all along. It's a visual spectacle, terrifying and heartbreaking at the same time. The crowd doesn't see the entity. Only Skye does. She's trapped in this nightmare, surrounded by cheering fans who are completely oblivious to the horror unfolding right before their eyes. It's like the entity is mocking her, taunting her with the life she wanted so desperately, the comeback she poured everything into, only to rip it away at the last second. And then in a truly devastating turn of events, Skye, completely under the entity's control.
Picks up her microphone and, well, let's just say it's a suicide scene that's both brutal and deeply symbolic. The entity could have made her do anything, but it chose to have her use the very symbol of her fame, her voice, her connection to her fans. To end her own life, it's a final act of cruelty, a twisted commentary on the pressures of fame and the emptiness of the life Skye had built for herself. And the scariest part, it worked. Thousands of people just witnessed this horrific event. The entity has weaponized Skye's fame, turning her comeback concert into a breeding ground for this supernatural plague. So, yeah, that ending is a lot to process. It leaves you with this lingering sense of unease, this unsettling feeling that the worst is yet to come. But before we spiral down that rabbit hole, there's something that's been bugging me throughout the entire film. Morris, was he even real? We know a significant portion of what we saw, especially in that final act, was just a fabrication by the entity. Is it possible Morris was just another part of this elaborate illusion? The film drops hints about Morris's past, his brother who fell victim to the curse, his desperate search for answers. It all seems so genuine.
But knowing how this entity operates, can we really be sure? Think about it. The entity thrives on fear and despair. What better way to manipulate its host than to offer a glimmer of hope, a potential solution, only to snatch it away at the last possible moment? It's a classic tactic of abusers, that cycle of hope and despair, designed to break someone down completely. So is Morris a genuine attempt to help Skye, a beacon of light in all this darkness? Or is he just another tool of the entity, a cruel trick to break her spirit before delivering the final blow? Honestly, I'm not sure, and that's what I love about Smile 2. It doesn't spoon-feed you answers. It throws you into this terrifying world and lets you grapple with the possibilities. The filmmakers did a phenomenal job creating this sense of ambiguity, this uncertainty that keeps you on edge throughout the film. The first Smile was terrifying, but this one dives even deeper, exploring themes of trauma, the pressures of fame, and the fragility of our own perception of reality. It's not just about jump scares. It's about getting under your skin, making you question everything you see and hear. The blend of practical effects and CGI is seamless. Those smiles.
The way they distort and twist, pure nightmare fuel. But beyond the scares, Smile 2 makes you think. It's not just empty calories. It's a film that sticks with you, that raises some pretty profound questions about our own fears or anxieties, the way we cope with trauma, how much of what we perceive as reality is actually just a construct, a narrative we create to make sense of the world, and what happens when that narrative starts to crumble, when the lines between what's real and what's not become blurred beyond recognition. Look at Skye. She was a victim of this curse, this terrifying entity, but she was also a victim of her own fame, the pressures of her career, the expectations she had to live up to. It's like the entity was a manifestation of her own inner demons, her deepest fears and anxieties, amplified and twisted into this monstrous form. And I think we all have those inner demons, those dark thoughts we try to push down, to ignore. But what happens when those thoughts take over? What happens when the smiles we wear to hide our pain become the very things that haunt us? It's a chilling thought, right? But it's also a reminder that we're not alone in those struggles. We all have our own battles to fight.
Our own demons to conquer. And sometimes the scariest monsters aren't the ones lurking in the shadows. but the ones we carry within ourselves. It's like the movie holds up a mirror to our society, doesn't it? This obsession with social media, the constant pressure to project an image of perfection, it can be incredibly toxic. We see it everywhere. People curating these flawless online personas, hiding their struggles behind carefully crafted selfies and witty captions. And while there's nothing wrong with sharing the good times, it's important to remember that no one's life is perfect. We all have ups and downs, moments of weakness, days where we just want to crawl under the covers and hide from the world. And it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to show vulnerability, to admit that you're struggling. Because let's be real, those picture-perfect lives we see online are often just a facade. And when we buy into that facade, when we compare ourselves to these unrealistic standards, it can really mess with our heads. I think Smile 2 captures that sense of unease perfectly, that fear of not measuring up, that feeling that something's wrong with you if you're not constantly happy and successful. And it takes that fear, that insecurity, and twists it into this horrifying supernatural entity, this monstrous force that preys on our vulnerabilities. It's a cautionary tale, a reminder to be kind to ourselves, to be more accepting of our flaws, to recognize that those perfect smiles we see online often hide a world of pain and struggle. But amidst all this darkness and despair, there's also a glimmer of hope. If the entity feeds on fear and trauma, then maybe the key to defeating it is to confront those fears head on, to find strength in our vulnerability, to build a support system of people who genuinely care about us, who see us for who we truly are, not the masks we wear for the world. Because at the end of the day, connection, authenticity, those are the things that make us human. Those are the things that give our lives meaning and purpose. And I think that's a powerful message, especially in a world that can feel so isolating, so superficial at times. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Smile 2, I want to leave you with this. What smiles are genuine in your life? What connections bring you joy, even amidst the chaos and uncertainty? Because those are the things worth fighting for.